all right. I'm getting my CM Punk impression on right now. All right, people, welcome. This is episode 177 of Hot Take Wrestling Podcast with my esteemed colleague, best tag team partner in the world, KG. KG, how you doing, good sir?
No complaints, my brother. How about yourself?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Let me give you your formal introduction before we continue. One second.
It's the ginger whiskey assassin, the other KG. Hashtag y'all gotta chill.
I definitely haven't heard the y'all gotta chill in quite some time, so it's kind of funny to hear that. We haven't had any of those moments in a while. All right. Let me see. Let me get me out of the way, and then we can get this old here wrestling podcast started.
It's Big Oos, Old Man Logan, acknowledging.
All right, good people. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in, checking us out, checking out Hot Take Wrestling Podcast. Y'all see the shirt. Wouldn't you like one of those? Wouldn't you like one of these here? Okay, this is the nice black t-shirt with the Hot Take Wrestling Podcast logo there. All right. That shirt may be on ProWrestlingTees.com very, very soon. So, good people, please indulge when you get the news from us that this here shirt, I'm gonna show it one more time. There you go. Hey, Hot Take Wrestling Podcast merchandise should be on Pro Wrestling Tees very, very soon, as well as our own web store, www.hottakeWrestling.com or something of that sort. Still working on that part, but we are definitely working towards ProWrestlingTees.com right now. So coming soon, more to come on that. Probably by next podcast, we'll have the official word to let you guys know. Outside of that, Hot Take After Dark is coming back very, very soon, as well as High Takes. We are trying to diversify the portfolio here and build, on the pillars, the three pillars of Hot Take. Myself, KG, and the boy Joe. We're gonna show Joe, so give him his flowers, because we were the first three pillars of this. So just trying to build on what we build in our foundation, and foundation is solid. Right now you got two of the pillars, but we standing tall. So that's what I got to start. Also, formal announcement for our watch party for SummerSlam is coming soon as well. So just stay tuned, man. Hot Take Wrestling Podcast is definitely on the move and on the go. So I will be looking for an assistant soon. So somebody, please, if y'all want to be assistant, help with things such as the Instagram and social media profiles and making sure stuff gets posted and making sure clips get done of each episode, to just kind of promote the shows for us. Making sure that stuff is on YouTube as well. Like, definitely hit the DMs, man. Let's talk turkey. Let's see what we can do, because we are definitely going to need some help there. All right,
Man, you looking for J&J Security?
Hey, I was thinking APA, not necessarily J&J Security, but
budget cuts.
Hey, budget cuts. Yeah, what can you do?
I do think that's hilarious. That was the best thing to come up with. She'll put around that man as his muscle.
Crazy.
And he had like an 8-month run with the title.
I don't know if you give that credit. And I guess they felt like Kane legitimized that. Like, no, that was terrible. And I don't know if that was from the mind of Trips, for Vince, or both of them. But yeah, that definitely was not what was happening. Outside of that, I am going to put our link in the comment section. If you guys would like to come on this week, give us a hot take. We are on the road to WrestleMania, so we would love to hear some of you guys' thoughts, and see what you guys are thinking about WWE product as we are leading toward the showcase of the Immortals, But we also got some PLEs coming up from NXT, TNA Sacrifice.
Yeah, Greek Gods at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you didn't know, KG?
You said the Showcase of the Immortals.
The Showcase of the Immortals. Yeah, man. But there's plenty of pay-per-views coming up, man. So not just showing love to WWE, but showing love to all of the major North American promotions. So, KG, to start things off this week, I want to change it up. I know we normally do our wrestling recap, but I was sitting here and I was rewatching Monday Night Raw before we got ready to start, and I wanted to throw this question at you. All right. So, NWO, arguably WCW's biggest faction ever. And DX, arguably one of WWE's biggest faction ever. If you can take a member from each one of those and take that member out of DX, put them in NWO, take that member out of NWO, put them in DX, who would that be and why? And it can't be named Six or X-Pac because he was in both.
Hold on one second, brother.
Take your time, think about it, because it's quite something to gander on. See what's going on with KG. I'm not sure, but he'll be back momentarily. So, good people, as I stated to KG, I'll state it to you guys one more time. So, WCW. Arguably the biggest faction that WCW ever had was NWO, right? Okay, so you're going to take one person from the NWO, one of their integral members, one of their just B-list, C-list, D-list members, whoever of your picking, right? You're going to take that person. Who would that person be that you think could have had just as much of an impact, if not more of an impact, in DX? Now, you do the reverse on DX. You take a person out of DX. Who would that person be and why? Be it.
I'm sorry, brother. You were going in and out of the. Repeat the question, please. You were going in and out.
No problem.
Feed was for some reason.
Okay, I'll repeat it, but I was just telling the people again too. So I'm gonna let them. So this is what we're gonna do: DX from WWE, NWO from WCW. You can't take Six or X-Pac. That's the same person. Anybody not named Six or X-Pac, take one from each of those factions and you switch places with them. Which person would you switch that you think would have just as much impact or more, or with the different faction, and why? Now, obviously, DX wasn't nearly as huge.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think.
NWO was.
I'm just trying to think who would benefit from that switch the most. I guess I would switch China because NWO never did have a women's wrestler that I'm aware of. So that brings a different dynamic. I'm gonna switch China for let's see. We talking about because we talking about anybody that's ever been in the NWO or the variations. We talking about like the Wolfpack. We talking about the black and white.
Just black and white. Just the original.
Oh, okay.
The original NWO.
Okay. So Silver's disqualified too. Remember they had Jeff Jarrett running around slapping people with a guitar.
Yeah. I mean, and if you
NWO 2000
into it.
Nah.
Yeah, if you want to say the NWO 2000, that's your beef. You
That's
can
my
definitely
prerogative.
pick it. Yeah.
But you said the original black and white because I was thinking Wolfpack and I was thinking Sting because Sting never got a proper push in WWE due to coming there too late and then injuries and all of that. But we talking about the original black and white. I was trying to think of somebody that didn't really get a push and what different dynamic they would be. Because some of those dudes, by the time they got to WCW, they were kind of past their prime, and that's why they probably weren't being utilized to that degree in the first place. But I'm
Hmm.
just trying to think who all was in there. They had so many damn members. Just I guess just Mr. Perfect, I guess, because he didn't really get a push past that mid card. I don't know if that would have changed the dynamic had they would have try to
Hmm.
push him better in WWE at that time. That was my two answers. It took a while because I was just trying to think who was all in NWO at that point. They had so many members.
Yeah, I like the China answer because I think, not to say that WCW didn't have women wrestlers, I'm sure they did at that time, but I think Alundra Blaze was like the biggest like women name at that time
Yeah.
in WCW, and she was like kind of made famous or got more famous from throwing away the WWE Championship on television or something like that on Nitro. She threw it in the trash can. Um, so I definitely like the China answer. That would have been different to see China because WCW definitely didn't have women of China's stature at that time that could match up with her like that. They definitely would have had to get into that black book from Japan and booking like Japan women talent that were like could be formidable opponents size wise for China. And I'm only going off of the dome from like old super old episodes and like the NWO versus the World game where they had all of
Mhm.
those like women talents and stuff that did come from Japan. Um, as far as my answer for that, I would say if I'm taking anybody from DX to NWO, I would probably say Billy Gunn, depending on where they put him and how they utilized him. Because I remember back in the Attitude Era, a lot of people were high on Billy Gunn, and they wanted him to get like a singles push, like to. He was another one of those guys that was kind of like identified as a future world champion, if you will. And he had the size, he had the look, in-ring ability, all that good stuff. He could talk on the mic. He wasn't a great, like he wasn't a Stone Cold or a Rock, but he could also talk on the mic. And I think he could have benefited from it. And I wanted to make sure I steered clear of Hall and Nash because I feel like that's just an easy answer to say, oh, just have Kevin Nash or Scott Hall go back and be with their buddies because they was their buddies anyway. You know what I'm saying? The guys
Yeah.
from DX. Um, so and then of course Six, that's in X Pac. That's why I said we couldn't say him either. But I think I'm gonna have to steal your answer with Sting on the men's side as well. No, you said Kurt Hennig.
Well, because I
Uh,
thought we were just sticking with the original white and black. Like I said,
yeah.
if you go into the Wolfpack games, you got other people.
Hmm.
That's why Sting came to mind first. I just was like, to your point, I thought Hall and Nash was just an easy layup. And plus, they had already kind of, although one got pushed to the moon, obviously,
Hmm.
they already still received pushes before. So it was one of those things. It's like that was my mindset in the question, at least, to say who
Yeah.
could have who would actually been more prominent or equally as prominent as they were um, in both of those factions type thing.
Yeah. So, that being said, yeah, I might have to steal the Kurt Hennig answer as well. I mean, hell, Rick Rude was technically there for
Yeah,
a
and
hot cup
both.
of coffee
Yeah.
too. So yeah. Um. So yeah, I guess Kurt Hennig would be like this. He would kind of not necessarily be an easy answer, but he could definitely fit the aesthetic. I could we never saw him under the DX act, if you will, that loose. But I think he could have fit. I think stylistic. It's just the
I
styling would have been different.
Yeah, I think it's more along the he would have just been so personality wise people might not think, but in terms of the braggadociousness, I think it could have fit because if you think about it, Road Dogg and them wasn't like completely out there. They were just more they brought a different flavor to them, honestly, in terms of
Hmm.
confidence type thing, not necessarily the degeneracy type stuff. So that's why I
Yeah,
think that's probably the reason why they added them too, because they kind of needed a tag team once they found out Shawn Michaels broke his back and everything. They probably
yeah.
needed to realize they needed to expand its stable. So getting a tag team was definitely of that mindset.
Hmm. And New Age Outlaws definitely brought a different flavor and aesthetic
Yeah,
to DX because that initial like version of DX was just kind of like heelish, if you will. Like
Yeah.
they wasn't that like fun bunch that they kind of became, like exciting and like, uncensored, if you will. They weren't that initially. Like when Rick Rude and Shawn Michaels was at the helm, and you had China as the bodyguard. Like it was a whole different like kind of presentation of Degeneration X. And
Yeah, because
then
even
when they
people
added,
knew about. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say,
No,
even
I was
people
gonna say,
knew about the backstage with the Click. DX also
mhm,
started randomly. They just had a tag match against the Road Warriors, I think, on Raw, and then like I think the next week they just became a thing because they
mhm,
were doing their own thing. Triple H is doing his King of the Ring stuff type or whatever, and Shawn
mhm.
Michaels is already they've been to the mountaintop, and I think at the time they didn't really had nothing to do with Shawn, so they're just like they already probably knew they were boys anyway, so they're like, yeah.
Right, right.
I don't even think it was a gradually a thing. Like the NWO, they built that up for weeks.
Definitely. And there was a little bit of a who's who and who's gonna be
Backstory,
this
yeah.
third guy. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, I'm trying to think. I saw something on and rest in peace, Scott Hall, man. I saw I can't remember if I was on YouTube or if I was on Instagram, but it was a post where like Kevin Nash was just kind of like doing an interview. May have been like a Dark Side of the Ring segment, and he was just talking about Scott Hall, and it kind of made me think about this particular question. And I was just like, you know what? I think this would be a good icebreaker for the show before we like really get into our like weekly recap. So I'm gonna try to come up with these kind of things going forward. I got another question, but I'm gonna save that as we get into the rest of the episode and we do the recap and stuff. Because as I was watching this episode, this was a pretty good episode of Monday Night Raw, and it had some good ring action, you know what I mean, as well as some segments there. And just shout out to Obafemi, man. I love the response and the reception that he's receiving right now. That's one of the questions. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way, KG. That's one of the questions. So of the recent, I guess they call ups. I don't know if we're doing the draft anymore, but we got Javon Evans, we got Trick Williams, and we got Obafemi. ABC in terms of where they are since the call up. Where would you rank each one of those guys?
Well, Over goes to the top only because of who he's gone up against so far. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of the positioning to where they're placing him, I think you have to go over Trick and then Javon. Only because of where
Mm-hmm.
they've been placing him. Like Trick's been in the main event of 2 or 3 straight PLEs. Didn't win any of them, but at this point in time, his biggest win was probably against it's no knock on Jacob Fatu, but that's his biggest claim to fame right now. Is either that he no, I think did he beat Sammy? I don't know if they had a 1-on-1 match, but either way, they're not Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
Both
they
phenomenal
teasing the Sammy match.
talents, both
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal talents, but they're not Brock Lesnar. He's had a couple run-ins with Randy Orton, but they ain't do a full-on match, and he didn't win. His his biggest win was probably, I guess, would be against Damian Priest because Sammy
Mm-hmm.
interfered. But once again, like I said, just kind of go. This is about a matter of levels. Um, or you could say that's been even him and Javon Evans. Javon Evans was in the main event too. A lot of those PLEs. They're kind of neck and neck to a degree though, because Javon Evans beat a former world champion in Kofi Kingston. So it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things where position wise though, they've definitely been featuring Trick in higher places on the card. So, but I would go over Trick and Javon Evans in terms of where they've been placed so far.
Okay. Um,
Well,
for
because prior to
me,
that, I would have said Trick, but in the last few weeks, kind of what catapulted over because before that, he was just messing around with mid carders and jobbers and stuff. So
yeah, you totally took my answer, bro, right out of my mouth because I was getting ready to say that like, um, just the positioning for me initially would have been Trick, uh, maybe Javon, then Oba.
yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying. Before prior,
as the
yeah,
last couple of weeks has gone on, in the positioning and just the response the fans have had, like I randomly like I collect the figures or whatever when I have an opportunity to, and today I was just kind of like randomly looking for Obafemi figures, and they're not on. Shout out to Ringside Collectibles. This is one of the like go-to figure websites I go to for like WWE or AEW figures. They even have some TNA figures on that site, like exclusives. And I went on there, couldn't find an Obafemi figure at all, right? So then my next step when I do that is I'll either go to Amazon, see if there's anything on Amazon, or I'll go to eBay. So I go to Amazon, I don't see anything Oba that I wanted to buy.
Right.
Then I go to eBay, and eBay, they're selling the figure for $100. And this isn't even, I don't even know if they have an Oba figure yet that has the NXT championship. They're selling the Oba figure that has the North American championship from NXT. So when he was the mid-card champion, because he held that for quite a spell. I think he's like the longest running NXT North American champion down there. But they're selling that figure for $100, and it's like everybody that had one, you know, it was upwards of $75 to $100, and then people were doing bids, and the bids are just growing and growing and growing. So they, you know, kudos to WWE. I know WWE gets a lot of crap for like some of the stuff just kind of when they're going through the motions with storylines and angles, but what they've done and how they chose to have Oba answer the call against Brock Lesnar, and this being what's now becoming looked at, because I think this is being looked at now as one of the like co-main events of WrestleMania now, because the fans are behind it, the fans are anticipating it, and just seeing the response he's gotten. You see fans in the crowd, you know, doing the Oba shuffle, and it's just like, at first I thought it was kind of corny, right? I ain't gonna lie, I was like, I don't really like the shuffle, but it grew on me, and you know what I'm saying. And I was just looking, and I'm like, yo, he's really rising. And it's like, I was listening to Busted Open, and they were just talking about an interview they had with like Paul Heyman, and how Paul and Brock kind of are like, hey, you know what? We're not 100% sure on this guy being the guy when I do finally hang up my, you know, wrestling gear. They kind of felt their way about Braun Strowman. They didn't think he was necessarily going to be the one. But the way Brock has been selling for Oba, I think I can confidently say that at least Brock sees something in him, and he sees him as maybe not necessarily a future Brock Lesnar, but as a future big man that can have a worthy like career path in terms of something like what Brock has done in his career in wrestling. Because a lot of the times you see WWE just kind of flip-flop with these guys. You know, they did it forever with Big Show, and they were doing it with Braun Strowman before his exit. And I can't think of anybody else. They kind of do it. They're doing pretty good with Gunther. They're doing pretty good with Damian Priest in terms of they current big guys. They've been doing a little bit of flip-flop with Drew McIntyre, but nowhere near the lengths that they have with Big Show and Braun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing too is that Oba's only about 27 years old, I think. So he has a potential super long future ahead of him, depending on how long he wants to be involved with the business too. So that's another big thing, because they haven't had a world champion under the age of 30 since Bray Wyatt in 2017. So that's been almost 10 years since they had a world champion that was at least like 30 years or younger than 30. One of the two. Yeah, so
yeah, it's a good time, you know, and like you said, as long as he wants it, I think he's gonna be in a good position. And even like I said, I think I touched on it on last week's episode when we were discussing it. I think when WWE booked him and Cody at that Saturday Night Main Event, they kind of did Cody a disservice when they did that, because Cody's had a bad taste in some fans' mouth ever since. And you saw that when you got the response that Randy Orton got when he attacked Cody 2 weeks ago, and the fans are losing their mind. Like, they loving it. You know what I mean?
Are, right. Still
are.
Yeah.
Like, that was supposed to be the point of a heel turn. Like, this becoming heel Orton, like voices Orton. You know what I'm saying? And the fans were eating it up. Like, they were loving it. You know what I mean?
And I'm
So
not crazy too about the whole champion versus champion thing, unless it's at like a premium live event type thing,
mhm.
um, or if it's a title for title or something, because they always want somebody to be protected. You rarely see like an actual strong finish, like somebody losing to the
Mhm.
other person's finisher. Like Cody
Mhm.
had that little roll up counter out of the sleeper to beat Gunther. This year, okay, well Seth won with his finisher, but like I mean, I guess he did use a weapon, so it's just like it seems like they don't ever want to defend a finish, almost in a sense,
Right, right. Like they don't
and
want to
that's
make the other
very
one look
right.
yeah.
Bury the other person, quote unquote, or one look. Um, or the next time they do a triple threat. You could, yeah, it's still kind of cluttered, but in my mind, the champions are protected, because all everybody's taking that quote unquote beat down. Like you rarely see a triple threat where nobody takes all of them don't take damage type thing, or one person doesn't take
Right,
damage compared to the others. Um,
right.
that's one way to protect them next time. Maybe do NXT champion versus the world versus the undisputed. I don't know.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I want to see a definitive finish, or better yet, they've been positioning lately the mid card champions to look a lot better than they have in previous years. If you want to do a showcase, you could do what's wrong doing an NXT North American versus the United States or the Intercontinental Champion. Switch it up.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um,
Yeah.
or if they really want, because that's not even protecting. That's legit. If you're the top champion there, that's the equivalent. Even though you're supposed to be swimming with the smaller fishes, that is, I would say, the equivalent of being the mid card champion on the main roster, being a world champion on NXT. You can even put the world champion versus one of those two titles, because
Mhm.
most of the IC champions and the US champions are basically poised to be a future world champion. So, and same with NXT champion, they're supposed to be poised to be a future world champion. So,
Right, right.
it's another way to protect them right there, in my opinion, at least.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I think that kind of segues pretty good into the weekly recap. So you ready to go ahead and get into that, my friend?
All right, let's go.
Alrighty, here we go.
And now, your week in review.
I'm just gonna put it out there. Surgery aside, right? I
Mm,
think Bianca has a grudge against Rhea, man. She's still mad at that time she made that bogus save. She stopped to do her whole stomp because she would have came out there on Friday and kept it from. I'm just joking. Most random heel turn in the last I don't know how many years on Friday with Meechin and BFAB. Uh, I don't even I can't begin to comprehend it. That would have made more sense if they put the irresistible forces with her, in my opinion, because Jade ain't really had too many interactions with them. You're getting three powerhouses. Now it's like, all right, well then who's gonna take the title off these three women?
right.
Because you know that they already got beef with Rhea because they took the titles off them, Rhea and
Mhm.
Io, the irresistible forces. Um, so not necessarily beef, but they've already had uh, physical interactions, segments, full on matches. Like I said, they took the titles off them.
Right.
I'm not understanding the Meacham, and maybe it's not for me to understand, especially because Jade's the one that injured Meacham in the storyline. That's why their match wasn't happening, even though she was legitimately injured. But for storyline purposes, it was Jade took her out. So I don't know, make it make sense. Um, I get it. They're trying to make it look like they're stacking the deck against Rhea. We'll see. We're going to our Mania predictions in a few weeks, but that was just a
Yeah.
strange turn. Shout out to Truth and Damian Priest, new tag team champions. I was surprised they put that match already, like did a title change at least on SmackDown. Maybe they want to do a culmination of this MFT and Y6 thing at WrestleMania. I thought maybe they was going to push that back because the other tag teams aren't really doing much on SmackDown.
Mhm.
You got Fraxium and Motor City Machine Guns had that match on Friday, but they're halfway. Machine Guns is like they're trying to help Johnny Gargano get out of his trance or something. One of them wants to, and the other one was like, no. So that's maybe that's why they felt like they had to hot shot that title change. Not because Truth and Priest are super over. Obviously, you could tell by Priest's look on his face, like, what the hell just happened? I don't even think he expected that.
I don't think he knew.
I think that was legit. Yeah.
Yeah.
A legit reaction. And then two things this week. Former Bloodline members, man, they keep getting told they acting like Roman. Tama Tonga told at the Solo. And then LA Knight told it to Jay, man. Crash out Jay. He said, you acting like Roman. Get him. Who is the real tribal chief?
Man.
I think Roman crashed out worse than Punk, because if you think about it, he's sucker punched Punk in the back of the head before that beat down. So it's still, and then Punk over here laughing after they get put through a table. So maybe this point with you, all Punk did was throw a punch. That's Roman went full on tribal chief heel version. What that reaction was. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre are still fighting there, just at your local hospital. Just so y'all know, that was pretty. That was pretty funny. I ain't gonna lie. They might be fighting at the airport on the road to WrestleMania for all we know. We'll see how that works out. Obviously, that's what's gonna go down. We'll figure out which night eventually once it's officially announced. Orton, those voices got him just treating Zack Ryder like Kane treated him.
Right.
I mean, my fact, Matt Cardin, formerly known as Matt Cardin or Zack Ryder. He's on the shelf with Bay in the storyline now. Although I'm not sure they acknowledge the fact that those two are married in the storyline. This man got his arm stomped out. Orton's on a rampage, my guys. He's on a rampage. Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes killed it once again. Dude just has ridiculous chemistry. At this point, we need a best out of 7 like they were doing with him and Andrade with those two. The way they always just tear the house down, man. I haven't got a chance to look at Dynamite this week, so we know the biggest thing going into that episode was Swerve fighting for potentially being the EVP. Although I thought Kenny Omega was supposed to be stripped of the EVP of power. I thought the Bucks somehow stripped him of that. I'm so confused. They need to make stuff more coherent and make it make sense at times. But if it's anything like their first match, obviously everybody's gonna want to go back, and that'll be must-see television. I'm expecting Omega to go over from the simple point that they're full on in with Swerve as a heel, and not saying he can't afford a loss, but even tonight I doubt it'll be clean. If he does in fact lose, it'll probably be Brody King or somebody coming out to do something. And they'll probably continue that feud going on to Dynasty, or even Heyman. They haven't shown him since he lost at Revolution, so we'll see where that storyline arc goes, because they could try to reignite him and Swerve. I'm not sure. What else was Monday Night Raw?
Can't touch the
AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Yeah. I would have been nice, as much as Cody pops up on the Raw, would have been nice since he's getting those pops. Those White Meats babyface pops would have been nice if Carmelo would have had a match in his hometown. They were in Boston on Raw a couple of nights ago. Loki was expecting them to do something with Carmelo on there. Not saying they dropped the ball or anything like that. Oba still got Brock's number on speed dial. We found that out. So
congrats to Carmelo Hayes and I believe Kalani Jordan. They got married over the weekend, so congratulations to them.
Mazel tov, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
You love to see it. You gotta love it. Oh, shucky ducky, quack quack, all that good shit. No bread, no water, just drinks at the reception. No, I'm just joking.
Testify.
But yeah, man. Obviously saw Finn come back to get a little partial revenge on Dirty Dom, so we knew that was coming eventually. Like I said, I'm surprised. I mean, everything don't have to be for the championship. It's I saw somebody put a take out not only about Finn. They were like, "What if they do like a mixed tag or some?" Somebody said, "What if him and Stephanie show up as the Demon, like a mixed
That
tag
would be
match?"
cool. That would definitely be cool.
Because she already kind of got the horns thing and the dark entrance in herself. I
Mm-hmm.
think Finn's definitely bringing the Demon back for WrestleMania. And like I said, Dom is in that weird space where depending on where they're at, because
Mm-hmm.
like on Monday, that crowd was low key split. I'm like, you that pop Dom got? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, man. But I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, like I said, they put the title on the right person to get it off Dom, and they got it off him at the right time because it had to have been Penta. We saw what happened with Cena. We knew Cena was one of the names too. Even though that happened 4 months ago, he was
Right.
definitely one of the names that was up there too. But it was a select few. That's how over Dom was getting in a lot of these crowds. So I'm glad they put not just because Penta obviously earned it too, but I'm glad they did it at the right time. So where Penta got that pop that he's been getting since he's gotten there. But definitely a moment for Penta that happened at possibly the right time. We were winning WrestleMania, and maybe that's why they said screw it, because WrestleMania does tend to get a lot of those quote unquote snarky, the smart crowds, that
Mm-hmm.
they like to just want to make the heel go over for whatever reason. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. Yeah, man, I do think this is just hilarious though with the Usos. They just keep getting interjected in this. The young
Yeah.
boys, as they were called.
Yeah. And that's why I asked that question about the bloodline, man. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if they forcing the issue to make the bloodline return in some capacity. I mean, because Punk doesn't have any backup. It's just Punk, right? Like, I don't think CM Punk warrants Roman Reigns, who's obviously the bigger, younger guy here, to have backup. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Unless CM Punk is playing the vampire character he played in that Night Shift movie, and he got existential powers. But yeah.
Well,
How do you
and
feel
to
about
that,
that? If
I I don't know if we need no bloodline reunion. The storyline arc lasted for about 5 years, and then they brought it
mm,
back after. It lasted for about 5 years. If you well, my fault, 3.5 because Roman was gone, and then I think they officially became a thing like in the fall of 2020. But then they
mm,
were together under Roman's leadership for about 3.5 years. Roman's gone. Immediately they go back into the bloodline. They just were babyface. So we
mm,
already kind of got that bloodline reunion in the sense when we got the
mm,
War Games. Uh, there ain't enough they can really do with the bloodline. So I don't want to see the bloodline reunited. I don't know if we'll see it in the first place because, and I'm surprised this isn't happening at Mania. They did announce that street fight for Logan Paul and Austin Theory against the Usos. I thought they were going to hold that off until Mania.
mm.
So I'm not saying they have to be champions too to reunite with Roman, but because you're gonna push him again, obviously, if you do the bloodline thing, and
Mm.
it's just oversaturated. I'm kind of over it, man. I don't need to see it again.
The bloodline has taken that space that the Shield used to, have in WWE in
Yeah.
terms of those, just like every couple of years we're seeing a reunion of sorts of this collective. You know what I mean? Even though that last iteration was kind of like, all right, well, Roman's sick, he's going off, so we're gonna kind of, just kind of do this before, John Moxley's contract was over, and then that'll be that. But I think that's kind of the place the bloodlines in. And then of course when they talk about these contracts, like it was out there long before Raw hit NXT, not NXT, Raw hit Netflix officially, and the rumor was that Netflix was like, "Yo, we want Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw," we want Roman Reigns as the champion. Like these were some of their stipulations, if you will, for the negotiating table. And he's been there prominently, you know, even though I think he's still booked on the website or billed on the website as a SmackDown star. He's been on Raw ever since. But I don't know. And then the other part is, okay, Paul Heyman obviously has his hands in other jars right now. He's the, you know, the counsel for Brock Lesnar. He's the what do they call him for the Vision?
The Oracle.
The Oracle. He's the Oracle for the Vision. And it's just like, okay, who then becomes the wise man if we do see a reunited bloodline? Does a reunited bloodline even need a wise man? You know what I'm saying?
He did it for The Rock, man.
Yeah. And I thought
wise man.
It was a segment there too with LA Knight and the Usos where, and I was like, okay, this can't be a coincidence, but the camera shot was LA Knight and Rock was on the trailer, the WWE trailer truck, and you can kind of see his face on it. And you know they do those kind of innuendos for, you know, somebody may return or just kind of Easter egg kind of things. And I was just like, and they said right there, it was like, I think it was Jimmy that said, hey man, you should really watch what you say about our family. And then it just kind of panned to that Rock, you know, picture on the truck trailer.
Yeah.
It was a couple of interesting things, man, from Raw I wanted to run past you since I just did a rewatch real quick. And shout out to Netflix, man. I think they stole the sauce from Hulu because before this whole deal took place, Hulu was showing like condensed versions of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
And it just kind of had like the best parts of the episode, and it took away the filler. And this episode, unless the episode was legit this short, but it was 1 hour and 50 minutes. It wasn't even 2 hours. So
I think they started, at least maybe they want to do for this, but I don't think they were showing a lot of the what do you call it, like the stuff in between the matches.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't remember seeing any of that. So it could just be they wanted to do a shorter episode. But you about right. I think it was about 1 hour and 50 minutes based on what I watched too. So
okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
I was definitely wondering because I was like, this was kind of like a concise, straight to the point, you know, kind of deal. And I was all for that. That's why I used to love those Hulu episodes when they would do the ones of a couple of days later, because they would literally give you all of the integral pieces of that episode you needed to see. But I
only think the 3 hour show should be build ups before the biggest events of the year. Like I'm fine with a 3 hour Raw before the Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. Other than that, I don't see the point of the 3 hour shows.
Agreed.
Or anniversary show.
Yeah, I think they need to bring back the Talking Smack show, and I can't remember what the Raw show was called after.
Raw Recap, I think.
Raw Recap, maybe. They need to bring those back for those 3rd hour blocks. You know, not necessarily for Raw, because Raw, like we just got through saying, is like 1 hour and 50 minutes. But SmackDown is now a 3 hour show, and it's like you don't have all of those big name stars on SmackDown like that to kind of justify this being a 3 hour show right now. You know, like I just said, Roman is listed as a SmackDown star, but he's on Monday Night Raw. You know, but I was looking at some of those segments, man, and I want to kind of just spitfire some of this stuff to you, get your thoughts on it. I was looking at the match, Grayson Waller versus Javon Evans, right? And I think some of those call-ups, and even though he's been on the main roster a few years now, him and Austin Theory, I think some of these guys could use a do-over in NXT, because Grayson Waller, he's pretty solid in the ring. He's okay on the mic. I don't really care for the goofy stuff on the mic, excuse me. I think they kind of put him in a Miz type of mold. And while, okay, he can definitely do that, I think they're missing the buck with him. He looks like a champion. He performs in the ring pretty good. I'm like, NXT, he'd be an NXT champion right now, like, you know, a world champion, and he could carry that show. And I'm like, they need to kind of have some of these people, as they're calling people up, kind of go get a refresher, because like they had Johnny Gargano go back down to NXT randomly on Tuesday for their gauntlet match, and it's just kind of like, yo, NXT needs a Johnny Gargano down there, because you kind of gutted the roster of its like main event talent when you took Javon, when you took Trick, when you took Oba to the main roster. So when you got guys like a Johnny that you're not necessarily doing anything major with, I don't see anything wrong with, maybe having them go down there and get freshened up in NXT, and then, maybe come back up if they re-sign or whatever. But
I agree with that, because if they're not really getting. I mean, everybody's trying to get TV time that matters, but if they're like Apollo Crews, they keep now randomly showing him backstage on SmackDown. I'm like, I didn't know he was still with the company. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought he might have been part of the latest roster.
I think he was injured. Yeah, no, he was injured. I think he had some type of injury. He had surgery. I don't know if he's necessarily cleared just yet. But that's probably why. Because he probably would have been part of those next round of releases, because prior to that, they did utilize him in NXT, but it wasn't like he was getting like a super duper major push. He just was having matches down there to kind of like legitimize some guys. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was just thinking, man, I said Johnny Gargano, not that he needs a refresher, but I think Johnny Gargano would do better in NXT right now, because they're not really doing nothing with him, especially with Tommaso Ciampa leaving. I'm like, yeah, send him back down to NXT and let him kind of just like, be the ring general down there, if you will, be like the locker room leader for NXT.
Or they could put him on TNA.
Yeah, that too. And he could definitely jump, from show to show if he's on NXT. But I was thinking him. I was thinking Grayson Waller. I was thinking Austin Theory. And I think they also need to kind of get away from this mindset that because they're part of the main roster, they can't hold an NXT championship. I think when they took that North American championship off Solo Sikoa, when he finally got called up into SmackDown to be part of the Bloodline, I think they did a total disservice to the Bloodline storyline and to him, because that could have been the Bloodline representation in NXT. That could have been your way to have a Paul Heyman on an NXT episode every now and again, even if it was just whenever Solo was having like a championship match at a pay-per-view, or maybe a episode prior to a pay-per-view, and you do it that way. You know what I mean? I think they need to get a little more progressive with that. The same way they were doing, and I don't know if that was just like a call Bayley and Sasha was making to make sure that they went to each brand and defended the women tag titles, but you really haven't seen that since it was on them. I think we got Bianca and Naomi down there in NXT maybe once or twice. And that's when Jakara was still there and Lash Legend was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was just sitting there thinking, I said, yeah, Grayson, Austin, Johnny, and I couldn't think of anybody else, but I said those guys specifically, I was like, they could totally go and get a refresher down there and really, really bring something more to that product. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree, and also I would say that they could maybe once at the because you would occasionally see that, wouldn't you? Like at a premium live event. No, I'm thinking of the UK. They would do that. They would occasionally have the NXT UK championships defended at Takeover. I was gonna say you could have some of the NXT championships defended at the premium live events. I think they need to start doing that too. At the major ones at least. Like why isn't there NXT? We only seen that one time when they had Charlotte go down there when she won the Rumble and WrestleMania 36. So they could do that as well. That would help, because then as you get an exposure, you could say you could start building feuds potentially. I also if it's because I'll get some feelers for sure. And if they're fine doing that, that's another thing. I would ask the talent to give them the ones that have built up the equity. Because at the end of the day, that might keep them from being released. But some people, that maybe they don't want to. But I would actually consult with the talent as well to see if that's something they're interested in doing. But that should be done more often with talents that are not going to be doing anything in the near future, because it's not even just because they're not doing anything with them. It's also, like you said, to keep them, even though I'm sure they're going to the gym and stuff like that. It's also just to keep them having regular matches on, because I'm assuming that outside of the live events, these people aren't really having regular matches either.
Right.
Because even at the live events, they're building towards storylines usually.
Like with Street Profits right now, I know they said that it was reported that they were doing NXT events right now, but we haven't seen them on television in months. You know what I mean? And I think that just kind of does a disservice. It's like, okay, if you don't necessarily have anything for them on Raw or on SmackDown, depending on whatever brand you got them on, do an angle, do a storyline where they go down to NXT for a spell. They have a conversation with the NXT, general manager, and now they down there in NXT competing. You know what I'm saying? And that could not just for Street Profits, but just for any particular talent, and it could kind of be a art imitating life kind of deal. Because like you said, this could be something that's like really happening in the background where it's like, okay, we don't necessarily have anything for this talent right now on Raw or SmackDown, but let's sit down, let's come up with some thoughts and ideas, let's brainstorm, see if we could come up with anything. Like with Tommaso Ciampa, for example. They weren't really doing anything with him that he may have wanted or he thought was progressive with his career. And he's got more, matches behind him than he got in front of him. He's been wrestling for a while, so you want to kind of make sure what you're doing to start is going to count. So it's like, all right, how about creative, the talent, and you know what I'm saying, the booking agents sit down and try to figure out these storylines, where it's just kind of like, you don't see these storylines anymore, like the loser leaves Raw or loser leaves SmackDown. You don't really see that kind of stuff no more either. And it's like this, art we don't have to always be in the realm of reality. Like, okay, yeah, we got Unreal and all this stuff, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean creatively we can't still dig into these particular bags where we're still telling stories and crafting stories leading up, you know what I'm saying, to a person's exit. Look how Jeff Hardy and CM Punk had that great match on SmackDown, right, for the championship. Everybody, it for a second there, it looked like Jeff was going to retain, right? And of course, we know CM Punk went over, wins, Jeff leaves. But that storyline, that build up that Jeff and Punk had leading up to that, man, still was great storytelling. So it's just kind of like, even if they would have did that with Tommaso before he left, and he still said, hey, you know what, still leave, I've done my time in NXT.
Yeah.
The TNA thing, kind of creative, kind of piques the interest, but I take my chances. You still may have that happen, but you at least you're giving the talent and creative a chance to see, hey, can we build something here first before we just know, all right, we're gonna part ways. I think creative, outlet, just they got to start being a little more creative in that direction, with that kind of stuff.
No, they definitely should probably out of foresight and don't be afraid to ask. And it's not like I said, to just have an open discussion with the talent. Yeah. That goes to the women too. We don't want to just single out the men and act like, not that we are, but that goes to them as well. The women are not doing anything with. No one comes to mind particularly right now because they are pushing these tag titles. So it looks like they all have something of note to do. I don't think there's anyone that's not being utilized, or Mishin and BFAB were. There you go. I think they definitely could have benefited from going back to NXT because once this is over, because I'm not gonna say for sure that Rhea is gonna go over. That seems to be a consensus. I
Hmm.
personally still think they might be building towards Bianca taking the title off of her if this surgery goes well. If they finally got
Hmm.
that together, because the storyline just writes itself. But so I don't think that's a long term storyline what they have planned with B Fab and Mishin being like henchwomen for Jade. So those are two that
Yeah.
come to mind. So
And that was so random. Like you
yeah,
said, man, the last legend, Nia Jax parent would have worked so much better, given that they already the champions. They all sizable women, so they all
yeah,
have this air of like, you know what I'm saying? They're out there, they're opposing, the opposing forces. They're gonna be looked at, in a more dominant fashion. You know what I mean?
no, for
Jade
sure.
looked like she's carved from stone, literally. You know what I mean? So you put her with them, not to take a crap on, Michin and B Fab, because I do think the pairing is an interesting pairing, and I do, even on screen, I think them on camera work, you know. But it was just
Hmm.
kind of like, all right, she just had championship matches with these women. Like, how do you like? How does this make this make sense? Why would they join forces with her after her being an adversary? You know what I'm saying? After losing to her in matches,
Right.
you
Well,
know
and
what I
also
mean?
getting beat down backstage and everything too, because for
Yeah,
weeks they weren't even having the match. They were just building up to it and saying they weren't going to have it, and she telling them to stay in their lane and all this, that, and the third. So yeah, it's just a little weird pairing. That's
you
all.
know.
Like I said, they ain't
And
really
then
doing that else with them anyway. But
yeah, and then you're not
yeah,
having any matches with Jade. Like Jade hasn't had a match since when? When was her last match?
that one against Michin like 2 weeks ago. Well, before that, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so it's just like I don't that doesn't do her unless there was an injury or something like that. And I haven't seen any report of that, but I don't
Yeah.
think that does her any good, for the anticipation, that builds with the fans for her WrestleMania match. You know what I mean?
No,
It
it's doing her
just
a disservice because even if they want the championship to feel special and her be like a special attraction, I just say that the title doesn't need to be defended every time she wrestles. Like we just
hmm
see, they've been pretty good about giving title matches on television. I just said just don't make it title matches then if you want to protect her. But she should be having regular rotations with
hmm
matches on television at least.
yeah. And who's to say they can't just hit up Wrestler Town and have a jobber there for that week, and her just face
Yeah,
the jobber, a little quick squash match? Like, she should be in the ring. Like, it's a throwaway title reign if she's not, defending it, not being on television, not being present. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a fact. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so before we get out of here though, bro, I want to do the NXT results really quickly.
yeah,
And then, as I mentioned, Friday, TNA has a pay-per-view coming up called Sacrifice. We won't make picks for it, but I'll just, the matches that are listed thus far, I'll bring that up so our listeners, our viewers can be privy to it. And, if they want to watch it, I think it's going to be a TNA Plus thing, so you got to have their subscription to watch this particular PLE. But I'll go over those matches in a second. But for NXT, let's see. We're going to start with Women's Speed Champion Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray defeating Fallon Henley and Laney Reed in a match. We're building up to Zarya and Sol Ruka. I think that's going to happen at Stand and Deliver. So we had a promo with those two. Kalani Jordan defeated Thea Hale. Johnny Gargano returned to NXT for a gauntlet match, and he won said gauntlet match to become the number one contender for the North American Championship. So I think that's going to take place. Let me see if they got the... It doesn't say when that match will take place, but yeah, so congrats to Johnny. And again, instant impact. You know what I'm saying? Los Americanos defeating the Culling for the NXT Tag Team Tournament. Tony D'Angelo defeated Ricky Saints via disqualification. Yeah. And it looks like we're building up to a NXT Championship feud between Tony D'Angelo, Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, and That's my man named Joe Hendry. So that's NXT. And then Sacrifice is looking like the following. We're going to have TNA Knockouts World Championship match. Danny Luna versus Ariana Grace versus Li Ying Lee. We're going to have Moose finally versus Eddie Edwards. Mustafa Ali and Tasha Steelz versus Trey Miguel and Jada Stone. Also going to have another tag team match. Elijah and Hometown Man versus Frankie Kazarian and AJ Francis. And another one announced thus far is Mara Shade versus Elena Black. So more to come on that. That's going to be Friday, March 27th. It's going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana. So yeah, TNA Plus. That's where you can watch that. So if you guys want to get on the TNA Plus side of things, you can use the promo code Sacrifice26 before March 28th for 1 month free of TNA Plus. So I think KG, I'm gonna go ahead and use that too, man, so we can go over that pay-per-view next week when we do our recap. But that's all I had, brother. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to touch on before we end this episode. Pretty straightforward.
I just wonder what Seth Rollins' bail money was. That's all.
That's that Paul throwing the mic at him was pretty funny to me for whatever reason. I got a good crack up of that when that took place. Paul was all over the show too on Monday, man. He was in what 3-4 segments.
Yeah.
You know, so they definitely utilized. Paul was definitely the MVP of Monday Night Raw last week. Oh, KG, before we get out of here, bro, wrestlers of the week for this week, who did you have? Or this past week?
Oh. Yeah.
Kind of putting you on the spot here before we.
Well, yeah, no, I was just trying to think of my week in review. I guess I'd go, even though that's especially, I go Darby Allin casket match. They're building him up at least, I think, to take down MJF. For the women, I'm trying to think any standout matches, because it's like sometimes they'll have a featured match, but then other times it's like they don't really spotlight them as much. Women, I shall go with Lash Legend.
Okay.
From the standpoint that made an impact immediately on the main roster. They positioned her. They positioned a lot of the NXT talents where they should be positioned in the when they get called up. There was a point in calling them up and give them a push at least to start. And we'll see if they able to sustain after said push, though.
Yeah. And she's been set up for success, I believe. I agree with you there 110%. The way they've pushed her, the positioning that they've put her in. They got her right there with Nia Jax, who's improved vastly. I remember in our initial Hot Take Wrestling days, yeah, Nia was getting desecrated regularly for injuring women. But yeah, she's a lot better. But yeah, man, I think one other thing I'm gonna try to implement into the show, something new, and I think it could be it's kind of in the same vein as a wrestler of the week, but I think I want to do like a MVP of the month, and I want us to just pick one person for the entire month that we think has just had a great month of wrestling promos, just everything, and just be like, hey, this is my pick. And I want to, we're gonna probably video it, like we were doing before, and just kind of put it on the show. That way I can have my pick, and it ain't necessarily a right wrong answer. It's just who you feel is the MVP of that particular month. Who I feel Phil and Will, you know what I mean? That way, just something different. People out there, don't start stealing, okay? And to be watching, because I know fellow podcasters watch too. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this week, y'all. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to check out Hot Take Wrestling Podcast. This week, Boulevard Ave Radio did not record Monday, so episode 177 of that is not out yet. We may end up doing a episode on Friday, I'm thinking. Tomorrow I'm going to an event, so I'm not gonna be able to pod tomorrow, but I'm thinking Friday. Maybe Friday we can get that special edition out there and do a Flashback Friday episode themed thingamajiggy. But this episode will be ready and available on audio Friday. So thank y'all for watching this. As always, the party starts at 8 p.m. Wednesdays. And we up out this piece, man. This is episode 177 of Hot Take Wrestling Podcast. We will catch y'all next week.